come to order. Welcome to the Interim Joint Committee on the Judiciary. It's November the 6th, 2025. And Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Senator Carroll.
Here.
Senator Deneen. Senator Neal. Senator Nemes. Senator Reed.
Here.
Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Representative Banta.
Present.
Representative Bauman.
Present.
Representative Blanton.
Present.
Representative Burke.
Present.
Representative Decker. Representative Dietz.
Here.
Representative Flannery.
Here.
Representative Griffey.
Here.
Representative Cole Carney.
Present.
Representative Chris Lewis.
Here.
Representative Derek Lewis. Representative Maddox. Representative Marzian.
Here.
Representative Moser. Representative Nemes.
Here.
Representative Petrie.
Here.
Representative Roberts.
Here.
Representative Stevenson. Representative Whitaker. Representative Williams.
Here.
Representative Wilson.
Here.
Co-Chair Storm.
Here.
Co-Chair Elliott.
I'm here, and so we do have a quorum, and we're duly constituted to conduct business. The next item is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And those opposed, no, and the minutes are approved. Is there any member seeking recognition to introduce a special guest? Representative Decker.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Elizabeth Nichols, one of my constituents and friends. She is the manager of Kentucky Specialty Courts, and she's here today. Back there somewhere. There she is. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other member seeking recognition? Well, I want to take a point of personal privilege to introduce the Honorable Bruce Petrie, who is the circuit judge of the Boyle and Mercer Family Court, and he's recently become the president of his association. So welcome him to Frankfurt, and he's also a constituent of mine, so which might be the best part, I don't know. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate your service. So at this time, we will hear from the Chief Justice of Kentucky, Chief Justice Deborah Lambert, and she will present the state of the judiciary. So welcome, and thank you for being here. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Chairman Elliott, Chairman Storm, members of the committee, and guests. Thank you all so very much for giving me the opportunity
If
to...
I could interrupt you just a moment. If you
Yes.
pull your microphone a little closer.
Okay.
I'm sorry to do that.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you for that technical note, because I would have not noticed it myself. Again, thank you, Chairman Elliott, Chairman Storm, members of the committee. I am very grateful to be here today to do my first address of the state of the judiciary as Chief Justice of the Commonwealth. Thank you. I also want to thank my fellow justices, judges, circuit clerks, many of whom are attending their clerks college in Louisville as we speak and can't be here in person, and other court employees who have joined us here today in the audience and on KET. As many of you well know, this past year has been a bit of a transition and renewal for our judicial branch. In December, Director Zach Ramsey came on board as the new director of the Administrative Office of the Courts. And then in January, I took office as Chief Justice. Shortly thereafter, I hired two gentlemen to work as my Chief of Staff and Deputy Chief of Staff. Eric Finke and Andrew Hartley are here in the room with me. They work very well together. With all this change, though, we've been able to take a fresh look, if you will, at our processes in the court system, and we are all working together with a fresh set of eyes and a shared commitment to strengthening how Kentucky courts actually serve people. We're actually trying to examine every component of what we are doing in our branch. We are creating new guardrails where needed and focusing on working smarter where we can. In June, like everybody else who worked in the Capitol, we had to get up and leave the building, right? So we moved out to Chamberlain, as we are calling it, our temporary location. And speaking of Chamberlain, I toured the building in March of this year. Seems like forever ago, but I wanted to see how the renovations were coming. And during that visit, I asked about the lease cost because both the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals are in that building temporarily. And I was told that the rent was about $660,000 a year. So then I asked how much the building would cost if we bought it, and they said about $2.8 million. So I did a little bit of math and decided that it would be good government and good use of funds to actually purchase that building. And we went about doing that. It was at the end of your session. And the first thing they told me was that in order, as Chief Justice, in order to spend anything more than $1 million, I needed to get your approval. Imagine that. But gratefully, I was able to reach out to many of you with this phone call that said, have I got a deal for Kentucky taxpayers? And thank you. Many of you are in the room, and you were able to work very nimbly and ably to help get that approved. Thank you very much for that. I know that we could not have closed on that purchase without the work of our folks at AOC, and I would like to publicly thank them too for all the behind-the-scenes work they did, including getting a contingent contract in place. And I would also like to invite you all to come see us at 669 Chamberlain, and it is serving our purpose as well for the time being. Thank you very, very much. And like many of you who've taken on new leadership roles, I have quickly learned that change and challenge come together as a partner. The relocation of the entire Supreme Court, the Supreme Court Clerk's Office, and the State Law Library has been a real challenge. Much credit should be given to our clerk, Katie Bing, who's here in the office, and her assistant, Hannah. They coordinated much of that from their office. I've never had such an organized move in my life with all the moving materials and bubble wrap. As I stated earlier, our office space is serving our needs for now, but the Supreme Court is without a courtroom, and we're traveling across the state for our oral arguments. We may even decide to place a little bit of a funny sign out front of the building that says, "Have gavel, will travel." And even though we may appear stodgy from afar, each justice and their staff have been very flexible and have made this modern-day circuit riding work. Additionally, though, we have had to deal with historic flooding in Frankfort, as you know, that forced the closure of the Franklin County Courthouse for several months, and the entire operation had to be relocated. Our courts in Hardin County and other areas of the state face similar disruptions because of severe weather conditions and system failures. And throughout it all, I have been really encouraged by the resilience, the professionalism, the compassion of our judges, our circuit court clerks, and our AOC employees. It is a tremendous task for us to manage 5.5 million square feet of office space. And this change of season makes me particularly nervous about our very old, expensive to replace HVAC units and furnaces. Director Ramsey and Deputy Director Jason McGinnis have all dedicated a lot of time, along with other people at AOC, and they have a real handle on what it takes to keep justice moving forward, even in the toughest of conditions. We certainly all work better when we're in a reasonably comfortable place. Now let's talk budget. It's clear that our ability to meet the needs of Kentuckians depends on how we plan and fund the work ahead. I was called to preliminary budget meetings in December of this year. The General Assembly asked us to take a new approach in our budget, and our budget folks are working overtime to share fully and transparently what our budget history has been and the critical place we find ourselves now. We must ensure that our courts remain strong, stable, and accessible for generations to come. But great optimism does not mean that we can ignore a very harsh reality. The central theme of my remarks today is the need for a better approach to how we fund and maintain our operations, one that ensures long-term stability of our judicial branch. Historically, as you might expect, the Kentucky Court of Justice has been careful and conservative in its funding request. We take pride in being good stewards of public funds. And I will note that we recently received our fiscal year 2025 independent financial audit statement, one that is an unmodified opinion, the highest level of assurance an auditor can provide. We have consistently sought only what we felt was necessary to fulfill our constitutional and statutory responsibilities. That became our baseline for funding. And we do more with less than about any group I know. But today I have to be candid. The tools that allowed us to stretch resources as far as possible are no longer enough or even available to us to meet the demands of our courts. We have immediate needs for fiscal year 2026. We have a projected shortfall of approximately $14.3 million without supplemental support. We will request that the legislature give us access to our reserve account so we can cover obligations and prevent operational disruption. This isn't any new spending expansion. It's only accessing our own existing funds. In years past, we've had that access to those monies that were already appropriated to us. But with the funding of Chamberlain, the bill also locked down those funds out of our reach. We will ask that our base appropriation align with actual 2025 operational costs, and we need to have some room for projected cost increases and inflation and non-discretionary obligations. We'll ask to replace the restricted funds with real funding. We began all this work with an early budget submission on May 1st and an official submission on October 1st, and meetings and committee appearances have been ongoing. But since 2010, general fund appropriations for the judicial branch have not kept pace with the basic baseline of the cost of court operations, including the carry forward from our restricted funds. Those temporary measures allowed us to keep courthouses open, pay our people, and meet obligations to the public. However, with the passage of Senate Bill 25, the majority of that restricted fund carry forward was transferred to a reserve account. Access to those funds now requires an explicit legislative appropriation. Thus, the financial flexibility that we once had that allowed us to manage the shortfalls internally has been significantly reduced. We will ask that those limitations be lifted, giving access to our own funds at least to a greater extent. We now have reached the limit of what can be achieved through vacancy credits, through reallocations and short-term fixes. Current projections show that those methods will no longer cover operational needs by fiscal year 2026 or into the next biennium. Accordingly, we will be seeking an increase to our base appropriations, not to expand the courts in any way or its overall operations, but simply to sustain them at current levels. As for salaries, we all know that our branch employees are not paid in parity with other state government branches. It's just a fact. Judicial branch salaries average 17% lower than executive branch comparable positions. For instance, court-designated workers and case managers make 35% less than comparable social workers. Chief deputy clerks earn 13% less than executive branch administrative managers. Pretrial specialists earn 12% less than probation and parole officers. Elected clerks earn 11 to 15% less than elected county clerks. And last but not least, our judges, who graciously take on extra unpaid responsibilities, have gone from ranking 20th nationally in salary 20 years ago to ranking 48th today, earning $30,000 a year less than the national average for other state court judges. And at this time, since we have judges in the room with us today, I'd like each judge who's ever volunteered for a specialty court at some point in their career to please stand. They don't do it for the applause. They do it for their communities. And the truth is, though, we now face serious challenges in attracting and retaining qualified people. Judicial branch salaries have fallen well behind those of the executive branch by an average overall of 17%. Not only has our pay fallen behind, but we all know about the retirement changes over the years. Successful attorneys may have previously chosen to take a cut in pay to serve as a judge because of the potential for good retirement benefits, but that doesn't happen anymore. We are asking for a funding increase to support pay raises of 15% across the board in our branch. This would be in addition to whatever amount statewide raises are budgeted for all branches. While we're incredibly grateful for the small increases over the last few years, it doesn't change the fact that judicial branch salaries have not kept pace with the rising cost of living over the last 20 years, nor have we ever caught up with our fellow state employees. These are not luxury requests. They're about fairness, stability, and maintaining the quality of justice that Kentuckians expect and need. The people who devote their careers to public service in our courts deserve compensation that reflects their level of responsibility, their education, and their skill. In addition, we are working with the National Center for State Courts and have begun a comprehensive classification and compensation study to review all job specifications, pay grades, and scales across the branch. We intend to share those results of that study at the beginning of the year with you all, and as we head into that 2026 general session. We have a belief that this plan will drive our entire plan to ensure every employee is classified and paid appropriately for their work. Now, as to court technology. A strong court system certainly depends on modern tools and the ability to sustain them with steady funding. And for the first time, our judicial branch has proposed a dedicated revenue request to support our long-term technology needs. This new approach covers both our subscription-based software and our courtroom audio and video systems. For more than 40 years, Kentucky courts have partnered with Justice AV Solutions, or JAVS as we call it, a Kentucky company that designs and builds recording systems specifically for courtrooms. Every courtroom in the state, from district to Supreme Court, uses this system as their official record of proceedings instead of court reporters. Showing our pioneering innovation, Kentucky moved away from court reporters and written transcriptions many years ago, and now we rely completely on this AV system as part of the official court record. This early innovation is the envy of most all states. For the first time, we are establishing a dedicated funding line to regularly upgrade, replace, and maintain those systems so that all 432 courtrooms remain equipped with reliable, high-quality digital recording and video conferencing. Our partnership with JAVS is one of the longest vendor relationships we have and is a point of pride. The company began in Jefferson County in the early 1980s and continues to design its own hardware and software for use in courts across the world now. By committing to predictable funding, we are investing in both our courts and the local economy. And the same forward-thinking approach guides the development of our new statewide case management system through Tyler Technologies. It is the largest technology project in the history of our judicial branch, coming just as we are commemorating our 50th year since the 1976 judicial article. The move to a fully electronic court record will transform how Kentucky courts operate. Over time, this transition will reduce our reliance on paper files and their physical storage. That will help us lessen disaster recovery costs and influence how future court facilities are designed and built. It will also help us focus our resources where they matter most, supporting judges, clerks, and the people we serve rather than maintaining those old paper files and aging systems. Together, these efforts reflect what we mean by a new approach to budgeting. They're about planning wisely, investing steadily, and ensuring that Kentucky courts have the technology they need to serve the public well into the future, all the while saving taxpayer dollars along the way. Let's talk about court facilities and disaster recovery. Our courts can't function without safe, accessible buildings. And the judicial branch, as I've noted, occupies more than 5.5 million square feet of space, most of it in county-owned facilities. And since 1996, the General Assembly has authorized 106 courthouse construction or renovation projects. It has been a tremendous investment in our infrastructure. The legislative decision last session to create a $47 million asset preservation fund has already proven critical. Thanks to ongoing support, projects are underway in at least 15 counties addressing issues like roof replacement, HVAC systems, and structural repairs. We deeply appreciate your partnership in taking care of these very important buildings. Looking ahead, we will request an increase in our local facilities fund to help counties operate our facilities. By law, the judicial branch is responsible for reimbursing the counties for the operating costs for the court facilities. It includes things like insurance, routine maintenance, repairs, utilities, and janitorial services. This state-county partnership is fairly unique to Kentucky and places significant responsibility on both the counties that own the buildings and the judicial branch that keeps them running. These increases are necessary to maintain safe, functional, and accessible courthouses across the state. As I mentioned earlier, we have suffered several natural disasters over this past year that have hit two courthouses particularly hard. We also are seeking one-time funding to offset more than $8.5 million in flood-related damages in Franklin and Hardin counties. Additionally, both Lincoln and Bell counties have had significant and dangerous black mold issues. While Lincoln County is in our budget request for a new courthouse, we now hope to be able to repair the existing building at a much lower cost. These are just a few examples of unexpected and uncovered expenses that we have faced this year. We are also seeking authorization for a capital project to upgrade security systems in court facilities across the state. Many of our buildings are operating with security cameras, monitors, and access controls that have reached the end of their service life. This request includes $3 million to begin replacing and modernizing those systems to ensure continued safety of the public, judges, clerks, and employees who work in our courthouses every day. But we also have been running programs that really do change lives. Through the Office of Statewide Programs, Kentucky courts have been very innovative, and we address real-world challenges that our communities are facing. First, let's talk about the Citizens Foster Care Review Board. It's a program that is a direct service to judges where cases of children in foster care are reviewed by that board, and they offer findings and recommendations to the court. There are 171 boards operating in all 120 counties. In fiscal year 2024, 720 volunteers conducted nearly 20,000 interviews involving over 11,000 children. These volunteers play a vital role in promoting safety, permanency, and well-being to some of Kentucky's most vulnerable youth. As a part of those child welfare reforms established by House Bill 1 in 2018, this program also holds regional public forums that allow citizens to share their thoughts about the foster care system. The findings from those forums help identify barriers to permanency and are used to inform annual legislative recommendations that are shared with the Chief Justice, the Governor, and the Child Welfare Oversight and Advisory Committee. We also have family recovery courts that serve parents who are working to overcome substance use disorder and reunite with their children. There are 12 active family recovery courts in family court jurisdictions across the Commonwealth. Participants in these programs are more likely to achieve reunification and show improvement in family stability and overall well-being. The program is a collaboration between the Administrative Office of the Courts, Volunteers of America Mid-States, and the Department for Community-Based Services. Next, we have the Court Designated Worker Program. It continues to play an essential role in keeping young people out of the criminal justice system in Kentucky. In fiscal year 2025, the program processed over 16,000 complaints and successfully diverted over 6,000 youth from court involvement. This means that those youth offenders completed educational, counseling, and community-based programs and upheld their commitment not to reoffend. The CDW program reduces recidivism and encourages personal responsibility and positive decision-making. Our specialty courts, including drug, mental health, and veterans treatments courts, and the previously mentioned family recovery courts, serve nearly 3,000 Kentuckians across the state. Adult drug courts operate in all 120 counties and serve more than 2,600 participants each year. Mental health courts now operate in 17 counties, reaching more than 200 individuals, while veterans treatment courts operate in 8 counties and serve more than 100 veterans and service members. Over the past year, 10 new mental health courts were established through a structured, data-driven process that included community engagement, training, and accountability measures. These programs promote recovery, reduce recidivism, and strengthen communities all across Kentucky. And in 2024, we introduced behavioral health liaisons to help improve the coordination between the courts and the mental health providers. 8 regional liaisons are now serving across the state. They work with judges, law enforcement, and treatment professionals to ensure individuals with behavioral health needs are connected to the right services at the right time. This early intervention model helps prevent unnecessary incarceration, reduces costs, and saves lives. Overall, our specialty court judges have volunteered hundreds of hours to cases and increased their workload on their own time to continue these vital services well above and beyond their required duties. Even though I'm the Chief Justice, I could not order them to take the lead in this way. To their credit, they see the great needs in their own community and they give their time to help their neighbor. We're also leading reform through the Kentucky Judicial Commission on Mental Health, which continues to make meaningful change through the law, practice, and collaboration. The Commission now includes more than 500 partners from across the state who share a commitment to improve how Kentucky's justice system serves people with mental health needs. Looking around the room, there are so many of you that I could thank individually. However, I would surely miss someone. Many of you sit on the commission work on subcommittees Thank you for your volunteer efforts to reach across branches, to break down silos, and help us all find common sense, cost-effective solutions. Over the past year, the Commission has convened 14 statewide forums focused on the involuntary hospitalization process under KRS 202A. We heard a consistent message from communities all across Kentucky. Our system is strained, but it can be repaired and improved. Participants described challenges such as transportation needs that leave some counties without coverage, and communication barriers that make coordination of services difficult. We also discovered that there are shortages of qualified evaluators, which delay access to emergency care that individuals in crisis need. And we all agree that the rules surrounding regional mental health hospital assignments mean that a suicidal individual doesn't get taken to the closest appropriate hospital as would a person who is suffering from a heart attack or other medical emergency. We can take better care of our citizens in such distress. These regional conversations serve to reinforce the need for greater consistency, improved coordination, and quicker access to treatment. We have learned a lot of information that will guide our work and strengthen the 202A process in ways that protect liberty, but also ensure safety for those persons who are in a mental health crisis. We've already seen significant progress through past legislative efforts by the Judicial Mental Health Commission through CES law, which modernizes guardianship and competency practices. It reduces wait lists for the evaluation of criminal defendants' competency by 90%. Thank you, Representative Moser, for sponsoring that bill, and your support and work on that was much appreciated. And Senator Storm, thank you for sponsoring Senate Bill 26, which safeguards the rights of parents with disabilities in adoption and termination cases. Looking ahead, our 2026 recommendations will focus on KRS 202C, the civil commitment reforms that are needed. The work of the Commission shows what can happen when partners work together around a shared purpose. The challenges are real, but so is the progress. Together, we're building a system where compassion and justice can walk side by side, and where every Kentuckian can see that change is not only possible, but is already underway. In closing, I would add that Section 110 of the Kentucky Constitution places the responsibility of managing the judicial budget duties on the Chief Justice as the executive head of the branch. And under the Constitution, statutes, and case law, particularly ex parte auditor public accounts, the buck stops with the Chief Justice in setting salaries, other than for judges, within our entire branch. I do ask that with the budget granted us, we are funded as requested. I can and will promise you that if funded, I will implement a 15% across-the-board raise shared evenly and equally, with no class of employee being lifted above and no class of employee left behind without a raise. I cannot and would not do otherwise. I'm very proud of how far we've come, and I'm grateful to each of you for your continued partnership and trust. The work of justice does not belong to any one person or even just our branch of government. It belongs to all of us who serve the people of Kentucky. And I know that we are all bound in many ways by the rulings of the U.S. Supreme Court. But that court only considers about 8,000 cases a year and renders only 80 to 100 opinions a year. In contrast, our trial judges and clerks in Kentucky process over 800,000 cases. Every day in every courthouse, justice is being done, but the lights have to stay on, and the people inside have to have the resources and tools to adequately deliver justice. With your support, I am resolved to build a stronger, more sustainable future for Kentucky's courts. I thank you for your time, your partnership, and continued commitment to justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chief Justice, and we thank you for your service. And I know that you have some members of the court here with you, your colleagues, and welcome to you and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I also want to thank you and the AOC for the attention that you have given to the Boyle County Courthouse,
Yes.
which I hear about a lot.
Of course.
And I work there a lot, so
Yes.
as does Judge Petrie. So I know that there are plans to address the issues that are presently there. So I appreciate that attention. We do have some questions. Senator Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Chief Justice, for coming down and for your presentation today. I guess one question that I have, in my own hometown in Pike County, we have a beautiful judicial center, a really nice building. I'm all about the architectural movement to make America beautiful again. And I think the building and a lot of the courthouses in my district definitely would meet that criteria. But I guess one thing I would say is, do you feel like in some occasions we're overbuilding these courthouses? Because, my facility in particular in Pikeville, it's a very beautiful building, and I'm in it quite often. I don't know that I have ever seen one of the 6 courtrooms completely full. I mean, and, the circuit of the district courtroom is probably twice as large as this conference room. The ceilings are 20 feet high. And I fully agree with Justice O'Connor about the majesty of the law, and I'm not saying that courthouses don't need to be representational buildings within the community. I firmly believe that. But do you feel in some cases that we are, building structures are a little bit larger and grander than what they need to be to effectuate efficient justice?
Well, I must say that is a beautiful courthouse that the citizens have there in Pike County. It is one that I'm not particularly familiar with, as it has come about before my time. But I do know that we do consult with national authorities about sizes and needs of courtrooms. Some are very large, some are smaller. But I think we do have to build in a little bit of room for the future. Are there some places where the courtrooms or the court facility itself is too large? Yes, but that would be in a very rare instance. In most cases, we have very inadequate facilities, it seems, in terms of space. But over time, things do change. Population changes. We have fewer citizens perhaps living in eastern Kentucky than we did at the time that would have been built 20 or 30 or 25 years ago, maybe, I'm guessing.
It's probably around, I don't know if it's that long ago, but probably a good 15 to 18 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying to be as conservative as we can with building in just a little bit of growing room. So probably a courthouse of that size and grandeur might not be built today.
Yeah, even, and I'm sure you experience this as well. I know a lot of attorneys, if they can now, generally Zoom, and most of the judiciary are very gracious in allowing that to happen, which I think has made the system run a lot more efficiently in a lot of ways. And I want to applaud you all for keeping up with the technological progress and adapting the court system to some of those needs. But like I said, I just in this day and time when we're all trying to make sure that we're good managers of the public fisc, and I'm not casting no aspersions here at all, but I think that we do have to look at these types of things on all governmental construction projects.
I agree.
Representative Kulkarni.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation today. I had a couple questions, which I'll be very brief, if I might. Just piggybacking off of what Senator Wheeler just mentioned, I wondered if you could touch a little bit upon virtual courts, their use, and if the court is planning on adopting any new rules or regulations for their use.
I'm not aware of any discussion that's going on with the Rules Committee about virtual courts. I do know, of course, we use the Zoom process a lot more now than we did when the Pike County Courthouse would have been built, but I don't know of anything that's pending regarding virtual courts.
Thank you. quick follow-up, if I might, Mr. Chair. I also appreciated the specialty courts that report the updates that you mentioned, and especially with regard to the regional liaisons that you have been using. You mentioned that, of course, the early intervention model works. It reduces costs. I was wondering if you could just in what way? What are some of the benefits that we're seeing?
We will be gathering data surrounding that new position that's been created. But I think part of that is just the common sense understanding that, it's very difficult, especially if a family is in the middle of a mental health crisis, to know what is even available in their own community. Or what's available regionally. And we do have a lot of good things going on in our state with mental health providing organizations, but sometimes that's just not on the tip of someone's tongue whose family is going through a crisis. A teenager might be going through a very difficult time, or an older adult might even be going through a difficult time. Having someone whose job it is to know what services are available within that community, we think will prove to be a very wise use of our funds and our manpower.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Representative Nemus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Justice Lambert, it's great to see you at the table. Also, it's good to see Justice Conley and Justice Goodwine behind you. Thank you all for coming as well. That a lot of people don't know that in 1976 we redid our Court of Justice, and our judicial branch is kind of the gem of Kentucky government, I think, in a lot of ways. I'm also an Indiana lawyer as well as Kentucky, and Indiana's court system is eons behind what ours is in Kentucky, mostly because ours is unified. And we've had some great Chief Justices. I will agree with my friend Senator Wheeler that some of our courthouses are very large, maybe too large for the area. I was in Shelby Circuit Court yesterday morning. It was packed. That certainly is not too big. I've been in front of Judge Goodwine and many others in Fayette County and in Jefferson County. Those are not too big. We've got cracker box areas in Jefferson County. We have significant need for a new courthouse in Jefferson County, and I know in a lot of other counties as well. So while that might be true in some areas, it's certainly not true across the Commonwealth. I did want to note with respect to the salaries, we'll do what we can do to get the increase to you, Chief Justice. I want to make sure we do that. But I also wanted to say, because this General Assembly has done a lot on this issue recently, in 2010 when Kentucky's great Chief Justice Joseph Lambert retired, the adjusted income for a Kentucky general jurisdiction judge was in the top 10. For about 11 or 12 years, the judges received no raise at all. And then this General Assembly, for example, in 2020, the general jurisdiction judge in Kentucky averaged about $130,000 a year. In 2022, we put a lot into that, and the general jurisdiction judge. These are Court of National Center for State Court. The salary for a general jurisdiction judge in 22 raised $11,000 to $141,000. We weren't done, and then this past session we raised the general jurisdiction pay to $156,000. So that's over a 20% raise in 4 years after being stagnant for over a decade.
Yes.
When like I said, when Chief Justice Lambert retired, we were in the top 10 for adjusted, and now we're at about 31 if you're looking at adjusted. I think we're 48th or 49th if you don't look at adjusted. So we've done a lot. We want to do more. We need to do more, and we certainly need to do more with respect to the frontline employee and the circuit clerk in the Court of Justice. I want to put my weight behind that as well. But my comment is going to be about the Mental Health Commission. I want to thank you for all that you've done, not just as a Chief Justice, but also when you were a family court judge many years ago. Not many years ago for me, not for you. You don't look any different.
No.
You've done a lot on this issue. I want to thank you for all that you've done. Is there a particular issue that you would highlight for us that we adjust the law when we're looking into this issue? I'm really happy with your comment about we need to protect liberty while ensuring safety from those found in a mental health crisis. So there's the balance to reach.
There is a balance,
I ask for a little more comments from you on that.
Well, our subcommittees have been working on that. I think I had a conversation with you about the 2OC piece particularly. We have a very diverse group who are working on the civil commitment piece. While it only covers only a handful of people in our state, it's a very difficult, weighty issue. But the forums that we did with the mental health regions were very, very informative. There may be some suggestions coming, I'm told, about transportation. Who can transport? Is it you all did some changes a few years ago and changed it from just a sheriff that other law officers could make some transports, but we might need to look at that again, and the commission might make some recommendations about that. But one of the things that I briefly would like to address that we ran out of time to include in the main address is that I have a personal passion for truancy prevention, and our truancy problems across the state are just out of control and takes too long for the child and the family to receive the attention that they need to resolve those issues, in my personal opinion. So our specialty court folks are working on a portable packet or curriculum, if you will, that judges can take into a school and do an in-school truancy prevention program that wraps around the child and the family in the middle school age levels, so that that family has a chance to not only avoid court, but to avoid the problems that might come in the future. I did that for about 6 years in 4 middle schools, 10 weeks each spring and each fall, and I don't recall a single family coming back to my courtroom in a formal way. The family resource officers would identify those kids who were in need and of our work, and we would sit down, and I used to refer to it as a honey baby program, because we could be really kind to the family and build that family up and not have the court part of it ready to fall down on them.
Quick comment, very quick. Thank you for that. In the truancy situation in Jefferson County, our truancy last year was 38%, far above the, and that's a habitual truancy. That's kids that have missed more than 15 days. We have, it's been reduced to 33%, which is on the way in the right direction. But if Jefferson would just come to the state average, it would increase their funding $23.8 million, because one of the ways we fund is average daily attendance. Mm-hmm. So thank you for all you're doing on that. I would note that Jefferson County Public Schools has 92,000 kids in it, and we have to do things differently for Jefferson County Public Schools, because anybody who would say that we must treat JCPS the same as we treat Robertson County, which has 3,000 people in the entire county, I don't think is understanding the real world. So we have to regulate things that are different, and we hope that the Court of Justice understands that in cases that might be before it or might be coming before it. Jefferson County is a different animal. With respect to the truancy court, thank you for what you're doing. It will help JCPS immeasurably. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Nemus, and I've also been working some on the 202C recommendations, and I've gotten those recommendations. I think they're very good, and Representative Nemus is going to take the lead on that, but happy to be involved, and I think those the work that's been done by the commission has been very good.
Thank you.
Is there any other member who seeks recognition? That's right. My co-chair, Senator Storm.
Thank you, Madam Chief. Madam Chief Justice, there's a lot of questions I would like to present, but I won't. I just want to focus on what you just ended with, truancy prevention. Tell me, do you believe on page 10 of your presentation, you talk about court-designated workers and the program that they do. You say they play an essential role in this judicial system. Do you think they're valuable, and can they be utilized in the truancy prevention aspects, which you've talked about a little bit?
Yes, I do think that they can be used. I think that under the model that we're working on, not only could the family resource workers be involved, they're pretty much where it starts, but I think our court-designated workers could also be part of that team to improve the attendance for that student and family.
Thank you. And I also just wanted to note that I see my Chief Regional Circuit Judge, Judge Lay, in the back of the room. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your good work. Last comment I would say is Laurel County and Pulaski County courthouses, I think, are a little bit too small. I was recently in Pulaski County, and to get into the courtroom, there was, I'm not exaggerating, probably 150 to 200 people trying to get into the courtroom.
Yes.
I've seen Laurel County same way. I think Judge Lake can attest that the courtroom sometimes bailiffs have to ask people to, stand against the walls or back out into the hallways because the courtrooms just aren't large enough in those jurisdictions. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does any other member have a comment or question? Well, if not, thank you, Madam Chief Justice. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. And we're going to skip Senate Bill 90 and go to the Corrections KCTCS Reentry Program. And if those presenters would come forward, then you can introduce yourselves and proceed.
Good morning. Good to see you. I haven't seen you since we were out at the. Appreciate your work. Absolutely.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today, I'd like to invite you to envision a Kentucky where the cycle of crime and recidivism is broken. We're here today to start a discussion about a plan we have to file legislation during the 2026 regular session that will expand prison education and workforce training to help with recidivism and improve public safety. Kentucky measures recidivism as reincarceration within 24 months of being released. Governor Beshear announced a drop in February in our state's recidivism rate to 30.81%, 1.6 points lower than the prior year, rightfully celebrating that nearly 70% of some 13,000 released inmates since 2022 have avoided being locked up again. As legislators, we must also focus on the national three-year standard for measuring the rate of recidivism, a standard that measures Kentucky's rate of recidivism as being 40.2%, higher than any border state, but declining faster than the U.S. average. The laudable momentum under both the 2-year and 3-year standards of measurement has been fueled by partnerships like that between the Kentucky Community and Technical College System, KCTCS, and Department of Corrections, DOC, a partnership that currently links inmate education directly to post-release jobs and measurable reduction in crime. We're here today to extend an invitation to you as legislators to join the already months-long dialogue between KCTCS and DOC in finding the best way to scale their efforts to help former inmates succeed once they return to life outside the prison walls. Specifically, we're here to invite you to join this conversation after we share with you today an outline of our proposal for funding a model campus at a state prison where up to 400 students will enroll in intensive education and vocational programs near their scheduled release date after being vetted for low risk and high commitment. We thank you for allowing us, well, before I say that, I want to say a little bit more about this campus. As the prison campus, at this prison we propose, inmates would receive focused education through coursework and career training, and if successful, they will be exposed to employers who see the benefit of hiring former inmates who have graduated from this type of program. Inmates who apply and are accepted into this program would complete the remainder of their full sentences in hands-on training and in-demand trades that are in demand in their area. Every Kentuckian has a stake in this fight against recidivism, regardless of any personal ties to incarceration. Because when inmates return home with proven skills, they are far more likely to stay out of prison in the future, to contribute to their communities, and to ensure safer neighborhoods for all Kentuckians. Here is a stark fact that we all must consider. 95% of all inmates will one day rejoin their communities, bearing the weight of their prior convictions, but having limited means to avoid relapsing into crime. How much stronger, safer, and more prosperous might we all be if inmates paid their debt to society and returned home as productive workers, strengthening law enforcement's efforts, stabilizing communities, and cutting taxpayer costs on repeat offenders? Our proposal is not just wishful thinking. We need to look no further than our border state, Michigan, to see this concept at work in successfully reducing recidivism. In that state, we find what they call vocational villages, dedicated prisons, campuses where structured education and career coaching have driven recidivism in that state to a record 21% overall and just 12% for village graduates. By imposing real-world work discipline during confinement. The proposal we make here isn't based on speculation. It's tested strategy to convert prison terms into enforced pathways that yield lower crime rates. Kentucky can, and I believe really should, and must claim this same path forward for our state, though through a deepened KCTC-DOC alliance, we'll build our own vocational prison, a secure prison, a hub delivering credentials, job readiness, and employer networks for immediate accountability in the workforce. When we come back during the session, we'll propose a firm plan that will slash recidivism, that will enforce rehabilitation, fortify public safety, and bolster our economy one accountable graduate at a time. We want to thank you all for this platform to sketch out our plan, our outline, a blueprint ensuring Kentucky doesn't merely warehouse offenders only to release them primed for failure, but transforms them into contributors who uphold the rule of law we all defend. Make no mistake, this initiative is not soft on crime legislation. The prisoners in this facility will serve their full sentences. We propose nothing other than the highest and best use of the time prisoners spend while incarcerated to ensure they become valuable citizens of the counties they will return to. I appreciate the people at this table who have already worked hard on this initiative and will continue to work hard to see this vision become a reality. I also would like to thank Powell County Jailer Teddy Lacey, Deputy Jailer Corey Graham and Michael Frazier, who worked hard at the beginning of this initiative to help restore hope for those who are incarcerated in their jails. Thank you all, and I now yield time back.
Mr. Chairman, Elliott, and Co-Chairman Storm, glad to be here this morning. Kristen Porter from Department of Corrections, she heads up the Division of Reentry. We're going to walk you through a slide deck about this proposal, but first off, it's an honor to present before a committee in which I once served on when I was a member of the General Assembly. Today we come to you with a proposal that will improve workforce outcomes, save money, and reduce crime in Kentucky. Today's proposal is a culmination of almost a year's worth of working with our legislative leads here, the Department of Corrections, the Governor's Office, Governor Beshear, Commissioner Cruz, Carrie Harvey, and Natalie with the Second Chance Employment Council as well. We're building a broad coalition behind this piece of legislation. First off, as you know, KCTCS is the largest provider of higher education in Kentucky. We're an open access institution. We're proud of the fact that we help out any Kentuckian, regardless of their background, who wants to improve themselves and find a better job. Our enrollment will exceed 110,000 this spring, and when we say we're a college for every Kentuckian, we mean it. We're proud of our work in our addiction and recovery communities, as well in our jails and prisons correctly. So today, we bring to you a continuation of the work that we're already doing to help out students in our jails, prisons, and recovery centers across Kentucky.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Thank you so much for being here at the table with me as well. I'm excited to really show you all everything that we have talked about. We've done a lot of work to get here to this point this morning. So my name is Kristen Porter. I'm the Director of Reentry Services for the Kentucky Department of Corrections. For DOC, reentry begins the day someone enters into our prison system. That's part of DOC's mission as set out in statute to maintain public safety, hold offenders accountable, reduce recidivism and criminal behavior, and improve outcomes for offenders under its supervision. DOC is charged with creating and implementing policies and programs to achieve these objectives. This reentry campus proposal is a chance to meet just that mission, with public safety for Kentucky communities as the primary goal. By building on our strong partnership that we have already with the premier career and technical education providers in this state, KCTCS, we are making workforce development a top objective as well. Expanding reentry programming, especially in a targeted way as outlined in this campus proposal, ultimately reduces recidivism. It improves public safety and strengthens the economy. This proposal is about preventing future crimes and ensuring that those who leave prison go on to become productive members of their communities and the economy. We know that a stable, good-paying job and the dignity of work are essential to preventing people from reoffending, which ultimately makes our community safer and our families stronger in the state. We also know that we are building historic economic investments in this state, and that our employers are looking for qualified and ready-to-work employees right here in the state of Kentucky. When an offender successfully reenters their communities and does not reoffend, it reduces cost to the state, and most importantly, it prevents a future victim. That's huge for our state. Under the Beshear administration, DOC has invested heavily in reentry, and we know that these investments work. Kentucky's historic low recidivism rates demonstrate the success of these investments. Through this collaborative and innovative reentry campus proposal, we are able to make Kentucky safer and our economy stronger.
Just to set the stage for you, as you can see on this slide, Kentucky prisons incarcerate well over 20,000 people. We know that 95% of them will eventually be released. So you have to ask the question, who do you want to be your neighbors? They're going to be serving time. I believe the Commonwealth spends on average $40,000 per year per incarcerated person. And if we can provide them access to premier educational opportunities to be better equipped to get a job on the way out, we know that reduces recidivism rates. This collaboration cannot work unless we have employers willing to hire second chance on a second chance basis. So far, we've identified 325 fair chance employers across Kentucky, building upon the work of the Governor's Second Chance Employment Council, the Kentucky Chamber, our other partners such as Goodwill. And we need to make sure that we have that foundation with our employers so there's jobs for these folks to go to once they are released as well. And as you know, this will help out with workforce outcomes across our state. And as you can see, there's plenty of job openings right now. And so this is an area that could help out businesses across Kentucky. Currently, just to let you know, 9 of our 16 colleges currently work with our 14 correctional facilities, state-run correctional facilities, plus 1 federal prison. We're offering associate's degrees. There are 4-year bachelor's degrees offered as well. We're also heavy on the technical aspect. And it may be a surprise to you, but KCTCS facilitates about half of all GEDs in Kentucky, including those facilitated to those incarcerated as well. Over the past year, I've ramped up our colleges so that they're eligible to receive federal financial aid. Over half of our colleges have PEP status, Prison Education Program status, so they can receive Pell Grant funding as well. And if an inmate were to be released and not complete their studies, they can seamlessly transfer and continue their studies at one of our 16 colleges, regardless of where they may transfer or be released to as well. Next slide, please. Last year, just to let you know, we had nearly 500 inmates enroll as KCTCS students. They are students. They're paying tuition, and we're teaching behind the bars in facilities across the state. That programming will not change with this proposal. Enrollment has grown, as you can see, to 570, and I just found out that last year's cohort had an 86% pass rate as well. So they have really good outcomes here. It's also important to know that enrollment is up because we're offering more programs. However, we think we can expand the number of those incarcerated to utilize our programming with a new facility.
Preventing a return to prison is key to reducing prison population, reducing state cost overall, and improving safety of our communities. For corrections, preventing a return to prison and ultimately reducing recidivism reduce costs to the state. The daily incarceration rate for prison is currently $116.41 per inmate for fiscal year 2025. Which is the annual cost, as Dr. Ross was saying, $42,488 per inmate. With each person who successfully stays in their communities and does not reoffend, that cost avoidance adds up over time. But there are many ways that investing in reentry positively impacts economies, communities, families, and future generations, which is hard to quantify. Vocational training and education, especially of the caliber that we are proposing with KCTCS, increases post-release employment and earnings. This means more tax revenue and a lower dependence on public benefits. Reducing recidivism and overall incarceration also positively impacts households and children. By improving the success of parents who return from prison, we are able to make families stronger and improve outcomes for generations. Kentucky has one of the highest rates of children with a parent who has been incarcerated. Estimates are around 10% of Kentucky children. This is significant because national data show that a family with an incarcerated father is 38% more likely to experience poverty. But also national data shows that a child who has a parent who is incarcerated is 6 times more likely to be incarcerated themselves. That means that without breaking the cycles of incarceration, we are going to continue to see impacts to the juvenile systems and adult correctional systems. Lowering recidivism also positively impacts law enforcement agencies, the court systems, local government budgets. Fewer offenses means fewer victims, which means fewer police responses, saving officers' times, and booking and processing costs. It also reduces the burden on courts from new offenses and supervision violations. Investing in reentry leads to successful outcomes and generates cost savings across the criminal justice system, state and local government, and social benefits programs.
All right, so let's get to the proposal. For the last several months, this coalition that I referenced earlier, we've been visiting not only Kentucky correctional facilities, but also what many would consider the national leader on this is up in Michigan as well, with the vocational villages that Representative Decker referenced earlier. We're going to be returning to that facility early next month. And so what we would like to do is propose a KCTCS reentry campus, a new build at the North Point Training Center in Boyle County. You may ask yourself, well, why was this correctional facility chosen as a potential candidate? Well, first off is that we're building upon an existing security footprint. We're not building new dorms. We're building a new educational facility. We're also building upon existing prison education programs that are at that facility, also with room to grow as well, and also due to proximity to employers. We hope that this facility is one in which our employers, both Second Chance and others, can get to easily to do job interviews on site, and so that inmates can have a job offer well before their release day as well. The building would be about 51,000 square feet, and we'd like to focus on about 400 inmates with room to grow in the facility as well. If any of you have toured the Advanced Manufacturing Building in Scott County, it'd be very similar to that. It's big open bay. Next slide, please. A big open bay facility where we can offer several different programs at a very high level of excellence. By working with DOC on the operational side, as well as their life skills training and others like Goodwill with the reentry program, these are the programs that we're proposing. This list could change. The best part about this building is that with an open bay, you can move in a new program. You can move in ones that are not working as well and replace the programming as well, such as HVAC, carpentry, and others that are not listed here. Why, you may ask, are these programs being proposed? Well, these are the ones where the likelihood of being hired as a felon are most likely. That these align with areas where Second Chance has said, we will hire these folks. We've heard from people like the Chamber, the Goodwill, the Second Chance Employment Council as well, that these are the ones that I think would have the highest likelihood of employment as well. We've toured many facilities. Tomorrow I'll be in Pee Wee Valley visiting the Women's Correctional Facility as well. And this is an area where we would welcome any input that you may have with programming as well. Would also like to say that we're working on a piece of authorizing legislation, Representative Decker and Senator Storm as well, that would work out how our agencies would work with each other in the future. And in conclusion, last slide please, you may ask yourself, well, how is this going to work? Well, we would advertise among the 13 prisons that exist right now with male populations, and we want to make this so that the incarcerated look at this as a way to get transferred into a college. We want to make it so that they can say, I hope that on good behavior, on the tail end of my sentence, I could be transferred to the KCTCS Reentry College, get premier education, and have the ability to have a job interview on site so that when I get released, I have the best chance possible to get a job, provide for a family, and not recommit as well. We hope that we can work with the Department of Corrections and this great building of trust that we have already to make this work. We're building upon a model that's working in Michigan, and we think we can do it right here in Kentucky as well. Our vision is to support the reentry program that we already have, build upon it, but access an economy of scale with one central reentry campus as well. We have lots of work to do. We welcome your feedback, but I'll leave you with this. With 95% of these individuals being released, the fact that we have a lot of job openings right now, and also looking upon Michigan that has cut the recidivism rate in half for those who've gone through their program, we think that this is good policy for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you for your time.
Members, I would just, I would just add, I thank Representative Decker for her work and Dr. Quarles and his team for their leadership on this matter. I believe if you look at this blueprint that we've been able to put together, it mirrors Michigan's model, And again, 95% of these individuals in DLC custody are going to go back into our communities. And so this blueprint enhances public safety, facilitates deterrence, reduces recidivism, which will be fiscally responsible to the Commonwealth. And most importantly, these individuals that go through this program will all be vetted, low-risk offenders who will be employable when they complete this program and go back into their communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very informative, and I'm always for building things in beautiful Boyle County. So I'm glad to see that that's a proposed location, and I know that I appreciate the invitation to tour back in the summer, and I played hooky and wasn't able to be there with the North Point tour. Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When it comes to welfare type programs, I like the old term, let's look at them as more of a trampoline versus a hammock. And in the nature of this, it looks like we're training or teaching a man to fish so that maybe we don't have to, let them look at this more like a hammock. So my question is for Representative Decker. Have you had the opportunity by chance to meet and discuss and interview folks who have gone through this program, and how has it helped them?
Well, we don't have this very program in Kentucky. I have, by the way, you all can go on the internet and Google the Michigan villages, and you can hear all kinds of testimonials about how their lives were changed. But I did talk to a former prisoner from Powell County. When the Powell County Jail came to talk to me about this type of idea, they put me on the phone with someone who told me that he was in Lowe's on an errand for his wife. And he said, now that doesn't mean anything to you, Representative, but it means everything to me. Because before I went to the Powell County Jail, my wife had left me and taken my children. And he said, God graced me with a sentence to the Powell County Jail where they taught me the trade of HVAC. And he said, after that, I was employed. I got out of prison. I'm not from Powell County, he said. And he said, if you can do anything to help this be available to prisoners who aren't graced by God to get sentenced to the Powell County Jail, I wish you would do so. Because it changed my life. I have a family again. I'm running errands for my wife. So that, I will never forget that call. So thank you for that question.
Sure thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Nemes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. And as Commissioner Quarles, you know what work we did in the labor cabinet with this. I've been in and out of detention centers throughout the state for different reasons, but this is something that is...
As a secretary, not an inmate.
But I did see
editorial comments here.
I did see many people I knew in there when I was there. But this is something that is much needed. The number one thing in recidivism is the felons coming out without a job. Yeah. If they have a job, they're more successful than anything else. They get their life in line. And so I want to thank you for this. But have y'all thought about some of the legislation we need to do? For instance, being able to come out of jail and work while they're behind bars, to go off-site for their apprenticeship programs and that. Because we struggle with that, and I think there's some legislation that needs to be done on that.
So the enabling legislation that we're working on currently, literally right now, can address those needs. I know one of the things that we want to be clear about is that this is not a criminal justice reform bill. This is about workforce, and for those inmates that we know will be released, having the best chance possible. So there may be provisions of the bill that may address licensing and occupations that if they graduate from our college, that it may help them get that license and occupation. Those are things we still need to work out this coming spring. The other thing to think about on this particular issue is that that we're not trying to reinvent what's already working at our prisons right now, as well as our jails. And our jails, we already work, just to let you know, we're providing GED and other classes with the jailers that want us there. And so it's up to their discretion about what sort of opportunity they have outside of the jail. Here, we're focusing on a prison population that we can recruit from that can spend up to 2 years with us at the Danville facility. Some of them will be much quicker than that. For instance, a CDL truck driver's license we can do in 4 weeks. You can get a job making $50,000 after 4 weeks of training with KCTCS. And so some of the stays may be shorter, some may be longer, but those are the details that we'd like to start working out right now as we draft the legislation.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, can I ask a couple other questions?
Yes, please do.
There's also we had a problem with transfers from prison to prison. They started a program in one place and they were transferred somewhere else. And I know the jailers will talk about this as they move prisoners around for money reasons. And we have to look at those things on how to keep them in one place. Another one is when they leave, because everybody has different time spans they're going to be in prison. If they start a program that they're able to continue the apprenticeship or whatever afterwards, we could work with unions and other people that do that on that. And I'd like to, Mr. Chairman, tell a story to the committee if you don't mind.
Please do.
Very quickly.
I need to hear a story this morning.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I don't usually like this, and I usually cut off people that do this. But anyway, we started in a low prison. We started a water treatment apprenticeship program. So we didn't think much of it because very few people there in Bath County would go through it, but it was something for them. So when I was here in Frankfort, I saw a guard with 2 inmates, and I went up to him and asked him, "Hey, y'all from Bath County, what y'all doing here?" And he said, "We're here to talk about the water treatment thing, this or that." I said, "Well, we start that program down there." And I said, "How's it going?" And the young man said, "It has changed my life." So those are the things that we're trying to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I
Yes,
thank President Quarles for the time yesterday to go over this program. And I've been a hard sell on things like this sometimes, but I have to admit, and I know the success the programs have, but the idea of removing that population from the general populations in prison completely for 2 years prior to their release, the change in environment and being around fellow inmates who are on their way out, I see the advantages of that completely. And it's not, not just releasing and from one environment out on the streets, even though you may have had some training, some education. I think the process of reentry and having that time to be around others who in that same position, I think there's value to that. So I see this being much more successful than even the existing programs, and I'm on board with it. And I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a great step for this Commonwealth, and I commend you for that. I do have to admit that I did have one concern yesterday when I saw the list of programs, and I saw that heavy equipment operator was one of those programs. And the first picture that came to my mind were inmates driving around the prison yard in bulldozers. And I didn't know if that would be a good idea or not, but I understand there are virtual training abilities to take care of that. So I love the idea on the program. I love the ideas on the offerings that you all plan that are very much in tune with what we need in this state. So my compliments.
Senator, just to reflect what the issue you just mentioned is that we can always take the tracks off heavy equipment. But all joking aside is that a lot of the training we do now at our 16 colleges is done through training modules and sit down, almost looks like an arcade game training simulator as well. So that would be business as usual. The other thing we learned in Michigan is that you're exactly right, that those inmates that got transferred for the opportunity to enter the vocational village, self-policing, they wanted to see each other get across the finish line, and it was almost viewed as an opportunity that was highly sought after among the other prison populations.
Mr. Chairman, there was a question by Senator Nemus that I would like to answer about the transfers.
Please do.
As we have talked with Michigan and amongst ourselves, and there will be one transfer, and that is to this institution. No transferring back, unless, of course, there's failure, and then that is a whole nother set of issues. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly is that I did receive the plan for, it was a policy statement by the institution and kind of the agreement about how it would be run. And there was a proposal for allowing inmates to have internships and go off campus. I'm not sure I'm in favor of that at all, but we are going back to visit. I'd like to talk more with them about that, but that's not anything that I have anticipated.
Senator Nemus.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we had more of a problem because we were doing all of the jails, not just one specific thing. But going off campus, I think, would alleviate Senator Carroll's concern with the bulldozer if they're off campus. If there are enough facilities and businesses around that facility that would accept that, and there may be legislation, since it's a low security prison, that they could go off campus, and then they could also emulate into society a little bit gradually also.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
And there's also a Danville campus of KCTCS. I always have problems with that acronym. And an advanced manufacturing facility there, so maybe that could be utilized as well if it were located in beautiful Boyle County.
That's correct. So BCTC would be the college that this proposal will be attached to, and there is already a Danville campus. So that's going to help us with staffing with our faculty and also program sharing as we get it up and off the ground with your all's blessing.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your presentation. Appreciate the mission of this program. I just have a very quick question. Are there any ineligible offenses for this program? Just wanted to see if there's any, because I know this is sort of in the working phase, but just wanted to hear what are the eligible offenses or ineligible.
Right now, we've not determined that. However, Michigan does forbid sex offenders from entering their vocational villages, and the reasoning is that it's hard for them to find employment that aligns with second chance employers as well. And so we had a discussion just as recently as this week about this, but that's to be determined.
Thank you.
Kind of going hand in hand with what Dr. Quarles just pointed out and kind of what Senator Nemus mentioned is, we want to make sure the individuals that go through this program and complete the program are employable. And so that's why these individuals would be in one of those educational opportunity focuses.
Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Look forward to the completed legislative product that you're working on. So the last item is Senate Bill 90, an update which was passed in 2022. And if those presenters would come forward and introduce themselves, and they can proceed.
Hello. How are you guys doing?
Hi. Good. Oh, no, I have to say good afternoon now. I almost said good morning. It's good afternoon.
I almost said the same thing. Thank you for having us, first of all. Chairman Elliott and Chairman Storm. It's good to be here. I am Angie Darcy, and I'm the Executive Officer of Pretrial Services, and I am here today with...
Good afternoon, as you said. Jason Dufek, Manager of Pretrial Services at the AOC. Thank you.
I think we can give you a pretty quick update. I have one of the privileges of overseeing some of the implementation and operation of Senate Bill 90. And it was enacted into legislation in 2022. We started implementation in 2023. It was kind of a slow start. We had some bumps, but I think we have worked out a lot of the kinks and kind of found our way. I think that what we can say is, just from not only the participants but also our partners, is that there's really been an immeasurable success with Senate Bill 90. So we'll go ahead and go over it really briefly. Just a really brief overview. It's an alternative to incarceration. It is solely for low-level, nonviolent, non-sexual misdemeanors and felonies, and Class D felonies, and it diverts them away from jail and into substance use disorder treatment or also mental health issues. If the defendant is determined to be eligible, then they enter into an agreement with the prosecutor and defense counsel if they have one. And it provides a really big array of services, and that's what really makes it unique, is that it not only has the treatment services, it also has things like housing. It offers barrier relief funds for our participants, and a big component of it is our Kentucky Adult Education Partnership, where it also helps them get jobs and overcome some of those educational barriers. I would like to say that everything is facilitated by our case navigators. And our case navigators are employed by AOC, but actually under the BHDID umbrella. And they kind of facilitate not only the participant through the whole process, but also prosecutors and partners, as well as providers through the whole process of Senate Bill 90. The eligibility criteria is right here. They have to be at least 18 years of age. They have to be a Kentucky resident, charged with a qualifying offense. One of the biggest things that we've seen is that, and you'll see on slides, is that DUIs are excluded, including prior DUIs. We have had prosecutors that sometimes override those prior DUIs. They can't have a previous conviction for a Class A, B, or C felony, or a Class D felony or misdemeanor that is not a qualifying offense. So if you've had a previous conviction, that will also knock you out. And they have to be assessed by pretrial services as low, so low risk for failure to appear and low risk for new criminal activity. We do a clinical assessment on them if they choose so. And then again, at the end, the attorney for the Commonwealth or defendant's attorney can override or elect to override. It always has to have Commonwealth or county attorney approval to override if they see fit. The 2024 annual report, we did that last year. We submitted it to everybody on this committee. It requires a massive amount of data collection, and it really shows the effective measures. That's one of the key components of Senate Bill 90, is the tracking and the data component. So it is really heavy on data and very substantial. One of the highlights of this report is the addition of our recovery housing component. Last year was the first year that we actually had that in place, and really started to feel the effects of barrier relief, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we're starting to look at, one of the things that we're now starting to track is if a defendant declines to enter the program, we're asking them why, and we're also tracking that data as well. And then we also track, of course, prosecutor denials as well. We're in 19 counties right now. We just got started in Pike, and we hope to be, we're not in 19 counties. In Powell, we will be in Powell by January 2026. Our goal is to expand next year substantially. We hope to add on about 10 new case navigators, and we will strategically place them throughout the Commonwealth and also where we're wanted. So one of the things that we've really seen is that you have to have support from the prosecutors and the community in order to operate Senate Bill 90.
Good afternoon. As Angie stated before, there's a lot of data that is captured through Senate Bill 90 through the Behavioral Health Conditional Dismissal Program. Most of that data is laid out in the statute. Senator Westerfield was adamant that data be captured, wrote it right into the law, and we've got a ton of people capturing that data, whether that be the pretrial, our folks, treatment providers, Kentucky Adult Education, and as Angie said, all of that data is compiled into the annual report, which has been provided. If you don't have it, we're happy to send it to you. It's about 90 pages. There's a lot there to look at. Just to highlight a few things from that report, will be on these next coming slides here. So speaking about eligibility for the program, the law makes it eligible to the folks that are assessed as low. So of the people that we've assessed since the inception of this program, which was January 1, 2023, we started in Letcher County, there's been 4,400 folks that have been eligible. We've got roughly 50 unknown. And the reason that you see those unknown, I know nobody likes seeing numbers seeing somebody that can't be counted. What will happen is a lot of times people will post bond prior to us interviewing them. Maybe a lot of time they come in on a warrant and somebody posted the bond before pretrial got to them. So those people, we've not been able to ascertain whether they would be eligible for the program or not because they're gone. Now, a lot of times we will try to follow up with them, or the county attorney, the Commonwealth attorney will refer them to us. The defense attorney will reach out to us, but we've been left with about 50 people that we're not sure. You see a little over 1,100 folks that were ineligible. The remaining bars on the chart here, those are your moderate, your high for FTA, and your high for new criminal activity. Those folks that are not eligible because of their risk scores. What is excluding people is a common question that we get. So we've got 14.5% of the folks, they're not eligible because they've come in and they're not a Kentucky resident. We see that more with border counties. Kenton County, Christian County, Davis County, some of those places on the border will have people that are just not Kentucky residents, so they're disqualified. We have 14% charged with an A, B, or C felony, almost 4% where it's a violent offense. As Angie alluded to before, DUI. So the current charge is DUI. So 31% of folks are ineligible for the program because their current charge is a DUI. Domestic violence, that's almost 15%. Being charged with a sexual offense is 1.5%. We've got, statistically speaking, nobody that's being charged with an attempted sexual offense. And that's for the current charges. Right. The next half of these questions, this is the person's criminal history, and there's things that exclude them based upon their criminal record. We've got the conviction for an A, B, or C felony, less than 1%. Conviction for a violent offense is 0.1%. DUI, though, again, you see that's a big number, 16.5%. So 16.5% of the folks who would otherwise be eligible for the program are ineligible because they have a DUI conviction on their record. That's not their current charge is DUI, but in the past they've had a DUI. Conviction for domestic violence or interpersonal violence is almost 4%, and then there's no numbers for those that have been convicted of a sex offense, attempted sexual offense, or the federal offenses. Looking a little bit further into the DUI and the domestic violence conviction exclusion, you can see that we've got here on the top, we've got the number of defendants who would be eligible if the DUI or domestic violence didn't do that. And on the bottom of the chart here is the numbers for that. So we've got 3,900 people that were not ineligible. And this is referencing these question numbers. We have an 11 question screener that we do to determine if the person's current charges make them eligible for the program, and then as well as looking at their criminal history. So this question 9 deals with, does the defendant have a prior DUI conviction? And this chart outlines those. Of the 16.5% of the folks that were not eligible, that was for a past DUI. So that would be about 753 more defendants that would have been eligible for the program had it not been for having that DUI. Question number 10 deals with a conviction for an act of domestic violence or abuse. And on that, we've got 3.8% of those folks who were not eligible. That's about 136 more defendants that would be eligible for the program. Looking at the demographics, there's a lot of data here again. We have one of the highlights or things to point out rather is that more men than women are eligible for the program. But when you look at who's entering the program, it's about a dead even split. So while we have more men eligible, we see about 50-50. Half of our participants are men and half are women. On the completion rate of the clinical assessment, so that 11 question screener that I was talking about that determines somebody to be eligible for the program, they then have a clinical assessment performed to see if they have a mental health or a substance use issue. So these are the numbers based on the folks that completed, or the rates rather, of folks that have completed that. So they do show that of the potential participants that our case navigators are able to speak with, 65% of those folks are having that assessment completed. The results from that, so co-occurring 873 of the people that we have had that assessment, 873 have had co-occurring issues. So that is, they have had both mental health and substance use issues. We have 689 that are mental health only and 146 that are substance use only. We've had 42 where there's been no indication they've had neither. Looking statewide, and there's a lot of numbers here. I'll run through it quickly, especially given the time here. But we have, in 2023, we averaged about 80 referrals a month. In 2024, that number's up to 166. And through the first 3 quarters, we're at 186. So numbers for this year, we're at 186. So we've seen an increase. Part of that due, I think, to, this is just anecdotally, but I think due to us expanding counties, part of it due to just the word of the program getting out and more people being willing to send folks to us. Completion of the program. Here's statistics on that. One thing, when we've looked at it, so we've determined that participants are almost 2 times as likely to complete the program as they are to not complete it. So once we get somebody into the program, we're seeing a lot of success.
This is just talking about some of the contributions for participant success, and it's really about the barrier relief funding and also our partnership with Kentucky Adult Education. So this is the barrier relief fund, and what I want to really highlight is if you look at the medical for the barrier relief funding, it is very low. That's because a lot of people are on Medicaid and already covered with their health insurance plans. So there's not really a big need for medical expenses with the barrier relief. It's definitely about basic needs. And one of the things that we try to do with the barrier relief fund, or what BHDID is doing with the barrier relief fund, is stabilizing for success. So there's certain barriers that are obviously going to be in place when you are kind of in crisis. For example, you might not have a driver's license, and in order to get a job, you have to have a driver's license or a Social Security card. The Barrier Relief Fund helps for things like that. You might be in crisis and not be able to afford your utility bill, and that's a barrier to your success. And the Barrier Relief Fund is also helps with that. It's definitely a component that we have found that has really helped the participant, and it's kind of those wraparound services that I think makes Senate Bill 90 what it is. And one of the things that you'll notice here is that the first number is the total number barrier relief referrals and provided over the full length of the program. And then the second number with the second column is just from July to August. So it's just for that period of time. So we're definitely getting, as we are getting more counties in place, then we're seeing more of the need to actually use that barrier relief fund. With Kentucky Adult Education, we have a really good partnership with them. It's always good to hear their stories and how much they have helped participants. They have done enrollments. They have 820 people. They've done 819 assessments. So 99% of the enrollments have completed assessments. And the employment rate that we have is 209. That's also for participants that have found jobs on their own and not necessarily with the assistance of adult education. And then we have 49 receiving supportive services. So Kentucky Adult Education also has their own kind of barrier relief fund, but that's really for things like work boots or equipment that they might need for a job, like a textbook. So they have education and training fund that they can use that helps the participant maintain employment. Talk about our strategic planning. What we really want is more data. If you know anything about the Administrative Office of the Courts, we're very heavy on data and we love it and we would like to see more of it. So that's one of the things that we're going to look at with our partners this year is how we can get more data this year on our participants and the program. And then we're also expanding with some of our case navigators in our education piece. And then collaboration, we're achieving similar goals. We want to make sure that we're on the same page with our partners. And then we also just did a University of Kentucky, BHDID entered into a contract to have University of Kentucky study Senate Bill 90 to actually do a really deep dive on the success of it and what that looks like. And so we're in the final stages of that, and we should hope to see that report soon, because that's actually going to give us real scientific data on how much money we're saving, for example, with Senate Bill 90 versus incarceration or versus criminal prosecution. So that's one of the things that CDAR is really looking at and will help us with. So then we can come back to you with numbers and statistics because we don't, we're not really in the business of that, but University of Kentucky has taken that on for us, so we're grateful for that. We recognize that it's still a pilot, and that's one of the things that CDAR is also going to be looking at, because they're also looking at how we're operating the program, and they're going to be making recommendations and suggestions as well to let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we can improve. So we're looking forward to taking those recommendations and really looking at that as well. And I also want to just give a mention to our partnership with BHDID in adult education. That's really been one of the amazing things with Senate Bill 90 is how strong the partnership is. And so we're grateful because now we have those connections, and we're actually using adult education a lot with Kentucky pretrial as a whole to hopefully help people and get them out there with jobs and resources with our adult education partners. So that is all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
You may have touched on this, but what is the overall percentage success rate for those participants?
So right now we're looking at, and we don't have a lot of data yet because it's pretty new, but
I see a lot of numbers, but I just wondered what the percentages were.
Right now, we're looking at a 94% success rate.
Oh, wow. That's great. Any Representative Banta?
Yes, thank you. And we may have to get Representative Decker to chime in on this, but with the last presentation, I noticed that you were in there and you heard the school and the things we were talking about. So in my mind, I'm picturing some redundancy here. Do you see any redundancy? Should one of you not exist? Do we really need both?
So I think that they're separate programs. So with the school, these are people that are already incarcerated and actually in prison. And with Senate Bill 90, this is getting our low-level offenders and hoping that we never see them again. We're hoping to get them back into society and out of the criminal justice system entirely. So I think there are two different tracks, really.
Co-Chair Storm.
Is there a sunset provision in this bill?
There is.
And what is that?
At the end of 2026, Senate Bill 90 sunsets. So we are anticipating that as well. I will say this. Senate Bill 90 has been really successful, and we have only spent about a little bit over $4 million for the past 3 years of the program. So we've been very, I would say, economical and very cost-saving wise. We try to do everything that we can to save costs and be good stewards of the budget.
And may I have a comment? So this program, I think on your slideshow, says that DUIs or individuals who have prior DUI convictions are not eligible for this program, correct?
That's correct.
And under KRS 189A.010 subsection 12, there's a list of numerous controlled substances in the DUI statute. And so oftentimes we see individuals who have a substance use disorder or other dependency on either alcohol and or the controlled substances listed in that DUI statute existing at the same time, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so would you be opposed to a revision, or do you think it would be fruitful to perhaps include DUI convictions, or are you opposed to that?
We are not opposed to that. We will do whatever we are told. And we have seen that prosecutors have done a lot of overrides on DUI, at least the previous convictions, because they do see a need to, it is a good subset of the population to put into this program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other member have a comment or question? Well, if not, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And that concludes our business today, and we will stand adjourned.